Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Enco 110 from section 1. My name is Nur Alia Natasha binti Amruddin. My metric number is 2517554.
My name is Siti Maisara binti Muhammad Azman and my metric number is 2519746.
My name is Sabila binti Iwan Safian. My metric number is 2510532.
My name is Tuan Auna Akila binti Tuan Muhammad Nur Hisham and my metric number is 2513864.
My name is Sima Iwana binti Syamsul Rizam and my metric number is 2516644.
My name is Nur Naima Naswa binti Nur Azman and my metric number is 2517680.
My name is Muhammad Trisha binti Wan Muhammad Ridwan and my metric number is 2517970.
Okay. So, good morning everyone. I am Nur Alia Natasha binti Amruddin. I'll be your moderators for today's discussion. So, I'd like to thank you for the panelists for being here. So, today's topic is about how does streaming platforms such as YouTube, Netflix and Spotify influence the culture that we are exposed to. So, as we all know, the platforms has given us diverse content from all over the countries, many countries, such as in films, in television series, in online videos, and in music from a diverse cultural background. However, this content usually shaped by algorithm, popular metric, and individual preference, which may influence which culture that is mostly visible to compared to the others. So today for the first round, I will ask the panelists to briefly explain about the topic that we are going to discuss today. As a gentle reminder, please try to keep your response within 2 minutes so that the other responder can contribute and equal contribute as well as the others. Okay, so moving on to the first panelist, which is Miss Nasuha.
Thank you to our respected moderator, of course, and thank you to all the panelists for being here. So before we start on what is the streaming platform influence towards culture that we are exposed to, first I would like to define the key terms that is embedded in the question. So streaming platforms actually refers to online services that deliver media content, which includes video, music, and also podcast. And this media content is on demand, meaning that it's not a scheduled broadcast. And one of the few examples that we know is Netflix, also Spotify, YouTube, and also Amazon Prime Video. So these platforms are the streaming platforms that we use almost every single day. It's embedded in our daily lives. Now moving on to cultural exposure. So cultural exposure actually refers to a range of cultural perspective, identities, and also narratives. So these things is that something that as individuals encounter through media consumption. So it includes which countries and region are represented, which languages are heard, and whose stories are told and whose are marginalized. So that's the definition that I wanted to centralize today. Moving on with my point on how the streaming platforms expose us to cultures and how it reduces us to cultural stereotypes. So the first question that I would like to say, or the first statement that I would like to focus on today is, can exposure through streaming platforms help reduce cultural stereotypes? This is actually a very good question and I would love to answer this. So streaming platforms, they have potential to reduce cultural stereotypes, but this effect is conditional, meaning it is not automatic. We have to do something collectively. It does not come and we have to do measures in order to reduce cultural stereotypes. So a research in media psychology and cultural studies actually shows that consistent nature and quality of representation are more important than exposure alone, meaning that media or streaming platforms have to display content that can reduce cultural stereotypes more than they reinforce them. Meaning, cultural stereotypes can be weakened by streaming platforms if they collaborated with local services and local agents to reduce these cultural stereotypes. And moving on, a foundational framework is the parasocial contact hypothesis, which built on Gordon Alpert's contact theory. So the theory or the hypothesis suggests that repeated exposure towards positive and also complex portrayal of outgroup members through media can actually reduce prejudice. So what this means? It means that when someone with that is exposed to positive influence can actually reduce prejudice without even direct contact to the members that are outgrouped. So, studies testing this theory actually have found that audiences who engage with nuanced fictional characters can often report that reduced reliance on stereotypes. They also can include or strengthen their sympathy and empathy, and also greater perceived similarity with outgroup members, meaning that yes, cultural stereotypes can be weakened to an extent if media platforms and streaming services work with online and also local communities. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nasuha. So thank you for all the explanation and the views, the point of view of yourself. Now we're moving on to Ms. Sabila. What do you think about the topic that we are discussing today?
I think our topic today is really interesting on how do streaming platforms like Netflix, YouTube, and Spotify influence what culture we are exposed to. So streaming platforms, I think, does influence what culture we are exposed to, but I think it's the role of the streaming platform itself to produce or represent quality or simplified content. So streaming platform both represent simplified culture and representation in the culture itself. So depending on the content it is produced, we can deduce on how that culture actually is. So the streaming platforms are really important in ensuring that cultures are really represented. So on one hand, platforms like YouTube, Netflix give visibility to cultures that may not receive attention that much, such as the African culture, for example. Okay, through foreign films, regional series, or maybe vlogs, these streaming platforms can help reach audiences, and audiences can actually learn about different languages, traditions, and lifestyle in that culture itself. So it promotes that understanding. However, I also think that streaming platforms sometimes they make content that is so simplified that it can create stereotypes. For example, I give you the Netflix series Money Heist. It promotes, introduce viewers to the Spanish language, to social resistance, the theme social resistance. But the main series is a dramatic focus on crime and rebellion, which sometimes can be interpreted as stereotypes to the viewers itself. So it can lead to racism because people associate Spanish culture mainly with chaos and radicalism.
Is that all? Okay, thank you, Ms. Sabila. That's a very accurate, and for that accurate example from the African, and even you explain more about how the stereotypes works in the culture, in the streaming platforms. So moving on to the next panelist, which is Ms. Sima. Can you give your opinion about this topic too?
So, honestly, I feel like the streaming platforms such as Netflix, YouTube, and Spotify really shapes the culture we get to see every day. But the problem is, not all culture is exposed equally. I noticed that some countries that is smaller or maybe with a lesser economic power didn't get exposed too much. Their content rarely comes up because the platforms usually choose those who are more profitable and popular. At the same time, some culture was even mispresented. For example, there are some culture that focus on traditions, poverty, or conflicts while ignoring how people actually live in the real life. I think this happened because the platforms want a content that will attract a lot of viewers quickly. Not necessarily the content is authentic. So from my point of view, streaming platforms are powerful in showing cultures to a global audience, but they also create a kind of bias because some cultures get highlighted more while the others are underrepresented or shown in a simplified way.
So, you guys, our opinions are full of stereotypes actually. There's about culture where the more people presented, for example, white people, right? Okay. So, moving on to the next panelist, which is Miss Auna. Miss Auna, the three of them has already given their opinion, which is very impactful and very full of information. So, what do you think about this topic?
So on our topic, have you guys ever questioned, do streaming platforms encourages cultural diversity or cultural uniformity? On one hand, streaming platforms strongly encourage cultural diversity, which these platforms, with this platform, we can access a lot of content from across the world. Like we can watch K-dramas, we can listen to Latin music, and we can follow a bunch of content creators with different types of cultural background. And with subtitles and dubbing, it is also easier for us to understand content that is in foreign language. And also streaming platforms also allow independence and minority content creator to share their stories without really relying on traditional media gatekeepers, and this resulting in promote this resulting in promoting cross-cultural understanding and exposure to different values and lifestyles. But also, streaming platforms also can promote cultural uniformity, just like how Miss Sima and our moderator mentioned earlier. These platforms is algorithm based, which often prioritize popular and trending content, and which often favors more dominant cultures, such as Western cultures and English-speaking ones. These mean users may repeatedly be shown similar types of content, which limiting genuine cultural exploration. There's also pressure to content creators to create a content that is appeal to global audiences, which can result in cultural elements being simplified, which is mentioned by Ms. Sima earlier. Over time, this can create different cultures to adopt similar storytelling styles, themes, and aesthetic, which can easily erase their cultural images.
Okay, that's a nice, a brief, nice opinion from Miss Auna, which I can highly understand that this culture thing is very important for half of these cultures, like the more dominant type, which is the Western one. So we can see from this panelists, which is the four panelists, has said that in this time, in this world, the most dominant culture is the Western culture, which they have already spread wide in our generations. Okay, moving on to the next panelist, which is Miss Isha. Miss Isha, the other panelists has already given positivity and negativity feedbacks about these topics. So I want to ask, what do you think or what do you feel about this topic?
Alright, thank you, moderator and our panelists. So, in my opinion, I think this topic is quite important for us to discuss today. So, I will tell you about the question that always linger around, which how does language like subtitles, dubbing, lyrics actually affects our cultural understanding? So let me tell you briefly about the language. Language actually plays a crucial role in shaping the cultural understanding, especially through the media such as films, television shows, and music. Subtitles, dubbing, and translated lyric act as the bridge that allow the audience to access the content from different cultures. However, with while they help overcome the language barrier, they can also influence how cultures are interpreted and understood. So move to my first point, which is subtitles. They are generally support the cultural authenticity by showing the audience to hear the original language. Subtitles preserve accent, speech pattern, and cultural expression. Viewers are exposed to unique phrases, honorific, and cultural references that reflect to original society. Although subtitles may simplify the certain meanings due to limited space, they still encourage the audience to engage more directly with the source of the culture. Second, the dubbing prioritize the accessibility but can reduce the central depth when original voices are replaced. Elements such as tone, emotion, and cultural identity may be attained. Culture jokes or expression are often localized to suit the target audience, which make the content easier to understand but may distance the viewer from the original cultural content. Next one, the song lyric. The song lyric actually carry the song cultural and strong cultural and emotional meanings. Translating lyric is particularly challenging because the metaphor, the idioms, or the cultural symbols may not have direct variant. As a result, translated lyric may convey the general message of a song, but fail to capture its full cultural significance, especially in traditional or culturally rooted music. So to conclude my point, dubbing, subtitle, and translated lyric greatly influence cultural understanding by shaping how audiences perceive foreign culture. While they make the global media accessible, they can also alter or limit the cultural meanings. Therefore, language translation is not just a technical process, but a cultural one that affects how societies understand each other. Okay, that's all.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Isha, for that. Now I understand how important culture is in subtitles, in dubbing, and in the lyric song of many cultures around the world. I see. So next to our final panelist, which is Miss Maisara. Miss Maisara, as the final panelist, can you give us an explanation that will blow our mind? Okay.
Thank you, moderator. As we heard before, we already heard about definitions and also how streaming platform represents stereotypes and other panelists' points. But we almost forget the important question, which is what types of culture are most commonly represented on streaming platforms. So in my opinion, some cultures appear more frequently on the streaming platforms. This is because they have strong influential and they have strong global industries. Okay, so we take Western culture as example, especially in the United States and the UK. Okay, from my experience, whenever I open my Netflix or Prime Video or any streaming platforms, most of the movies, most of the TV shows, mostly from the Hollywood itself. So it shows that and it's the way they also use the English language, shows that the content able to reach global easily. Okay, and then we also have and before I forget, Hollywood they also have dominate in certain genres such as actions and sitcoms Okay, that's all for the Western culture. And next, for the Korean culture, they're also very much popular because through their K-dramas and K-pop, which shows.
May I ask,
Yeah.
Miss Maisara, are you a K-pop fan by any chance?
Yes, of course.
Oh,
I love
okay.
Korean culture. Okay, so from the K-dramas, from the K-pop culture, we can learn about their lifestyle, their social norms, and their foods, or even their fashion. And not to mention, they also have a strong global fan base, including in Malaysia. And other than that, I also want to mention about Japanese culture, which are very popular about their anime, their animated films. And it is very unique, right? The uh, the 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 anime they produce and also the production of their animated films is very unique storytelling and also very unique art style, and because of that they attract more youngsters, as I can see. So in conclusion, I think these types of cultures are very much popular and very common because they have big influential and they have big impact, and they are very marketable, global marketable also. That's all from me.
Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you for all the panelists that has shared their points of view about this topic. Now we'll be moving on to the round 2, which is the reflection, comparison, and evaluation about this topic. So I would like to remind you guys again, please try to keep your response within 2 minutes only, because we want to play a fair response to all the panelists so that we can contribute in this discussion. Okay? Okay, first of all, I will ask you randomly for the round 2 question, okay? Miss Maisara,
Okay.
as last
Yes.
panelist for the first round, I would like you to be the first person that I will ask, which is, have you discovered a new culture through Netflix, YouTube, or Spotify? And can you explain how?
Thank you, moderator, our beautiful moderator. Okay, now I'm going to talk about. Have I discovered a new culture through Netflix, YouTube, or Spotify? And the answer is definitely yes. And as I said before, from the K-dramas, okay, to give you a clear vision, from my experience. Okay, there is one time I am very interested in historical K-dramas, so I tried to watch it, and it's very very impactful to me that they have their own traditional clothes, they have their own accent and intonation, because back then and back historical Korea and modern Korea is very different. So that's how I noticed it. From the Japanese culture, yeah, I think they also have their own uniqueness, which I noticed that if they want to be respectful, the lower you bow, the highest respect you have toward the person. So I think that is very interesting to me, and is a new knowledge for me too. And then for the Western culture, and I think from the TV shows and the movies I have watched, I think Western is they are more open and more individualistic, and also they have more wildness, I think. Okay, so yeah, we can see a clear distinction between these types of cultures.
Okay, thank you, Miss Maisara. Oh, so we can see that Miss Maisara is quite a fan of Korean and Japanese, but Western, I think, is a little bit. So next, we'll go to the panelists. Which is Miss Nasuha. Okay, Miss Nasuha. What do you think about your cultural tastes that are shaped more by algorithms, or is it by personal choice? What do you think about it?
Thank you to our moderator. Such a surprise, I got actually chosen. So, before I jump into my opinion, I also want to give an Islamic perspective.
Oh my god,
An
okay.
Islamic perspective on algorithms and also personal choice. We know that God has given us personal choices. We can make personal choices. We know what's good and what's bad. And in Surah Al-Isra, verse 36, it is said that indeed the hearing, the sight, and the heart all will be questioned. So, going back to the question, is cultural taste shaped by algorithms more, or is it personal choices? So we know that when we when we like are when we are doing streaming platforms such as Netflix or Spotify, we lean more towards searching on what we want to see. We do not lean more on what is recommended to us. But we cannot say that we 100% do not rely on the recommendation that's given to us. We also see what people recommended to us, what the streaming services give us. Not only our manual searches matter. So when talking about algorithms or personal choice, for me personally, I think the shaping of cultural and also cultural taste on streaming platforms is more of a dynamic between both. It is not algorithms or personal choices alone. It is more of a combination of both, meaning that both impacted someone or a cultural taste when it comes to media platforms. And also, it comes down to what users encounters first, what you are interested in, like let's say Korean and Japanese. So you lean more towards that. You lean more towards perhaps anime or Korean movies or dramas. So that's how my perspective is. It's not only algorithms or personal choices. It's more of a combination and a mix of both. That's all for me.
Okay, thank you, Miss Nasuha. So as we can see, she's very Islamic, starting her introduction for the second round with an ayah from the Al-Quran, and we can see the contradiction between these two, which is the K-popers and the Islamic one.
I love K-pop also.
I'm joking. So for the next panelist, we have K-popers, we have an Islamic introduction. Now we'll go to Miss Isha. Okay, Miss Isha. For the first round, you say about the language, about the subtitle, about the dubbing, about the lyrics in the song. So, Miss Isha, for now, I would like to ask, should streaming platforms have a responsibility to promote diverse culture?
Alright, thank you to our moderator. Actually, I didn't expect it to be me. I expect it to on the other side, but it's okay. Yeah, for my opinion, yes, streaming platforms should have a responsibility to promote the diverse culture because they play a powerful role in shaping the global audience perspective. Platforms like Netflix, YouTube, Disney Plus reach millions of viewers worldwide. The content they promote can influence how cultures are seen, understood, and valued. So, like Ms. Awana had mentioned earlier, streaming platforms are not just for entertainment provider, they are the cultural gatekeepers. Their recommend algorithm decide which stories are visible and which remain marginal. So by promoting the diverse cultural content, this platform can give the audience exposure to different language, tradition, and social experiences, helping to reduce the stereotypes and cultural misunderstanding. Promote diverse cultures, support the representation and inclusion when the audiences see the stories from different regions and communities. It validates the cultural identities and shows the underrepresented voice to be heard. This is especially important for smaller or non-Western cultures that often overshadowed by dominant media industries. They also need to promote the diversity. Promoting the diversity should be done respectfully because the platform must avoid the tokenism or the superficial representation. They also should support authentic storytelling by creators from those cultures, ensuring accuracy or cultural sensitivity. So, to conclude my point, streaming platforms have both the influence and responsibility to promote the cultural diversity, and they also can contribute to greater cultural awareness, inclusion, and mutual respect in a globalized media landscape. That's all.
Oh, thank you, Miss Isha. So I think Miss Isha is full of respectful to the other culture and full of language, just like in the first round. She talked about the language. So for the next panelist, which will it be? Miss Sabila. Okay, Miss Sabila. I've already asked other panelists' opinions, but I didn't hear about is the streaming platform, is it harmful all cultural diversity? So your question is, are global platforms more beneficial or harmful to cultural diversity?
Well, in my opinion, I think global media platforms are more beneficial than harmful to culture diversity. But in a sense that, as I mentioned earlier, those streaming platforms have specific roles. So, they do come in certain risks. So one major benefit that these global platforms can help in promoting culture is that it gives smaller or less dominant culture a opportunity to shine and to represent. But because from these independent creators, foreign short films, regional music, it can help preserve and promote cultural diversity rather than minimizing the culture itself. So as Ms. Nasuha mentioned earlier, that algorithms do sometimes effect on how we view the culture itself, but I think it's also based on the audience itself. So we as audience, we should engage critically when we watch a movie or listen to a song. So because sometimes we cannot like deduce that that is the culture. Sometimes we have to make more research. But however, global platforms can also pose challenges to culture diversity because, as Ms. Nasuha mentioned, algorithms often prioritize popular content, for example, like Western media, which can lead to dominance towards these small cultures. Okay. Overall, I think global platforms are not inherently harmful, but it is the role of the streaming platform itself that needed to be straight and emphasized. For example, platforms should, have algorithms that determine visibility of the content. So that's all from me.
Okay, thank you, Miss Sabila. So we can see that the speech from Miss Sabila is full of analysis and research. So I would like to hear from Miss Anna. Miss Anna. So Miss Anna, your question is, how is cultural exposure through streaming platforms different from traditional media such as TV, radio, and cinema?
Finally, my turn. So my question is how cultural exposure differs between streaming platform and traditional media. So it comes down to global versus local reach. As we all know, streaming platform give us instant access to content from all around the world and from different kind of cultures. While traditional media mainly focuses on national or regional content due to broadcast limit. For example, like TV channel, news channel in Malaysia is TV3, right? But there's no way.
May I ask, are you a TV fans?
I'm not. My mom is actually. So I'm a bystander. Um, and so the channel that we have here in Malaysia don't the one people in other countries don't have them. Just like how channels in other countries we can access them, but with streaming platforms we can access a whole bunch of content from all around the world. Other than that, there are also on-demand access. With streaming platforms, we can access all these contents whenever, whatever we want. So, for example, I want to cook while watching a YouTubers, then I can just go to YouTube. Or I want to listen to music while I work out, I can just open Spotify or YouTube Music. But traditional media follow fixed schedule, which limiting exposure to diverse content. There's also algorithm. Algorithm, we have mentioned algorithm so much in these discussions. Algorithm-driven discovery. Streaming platform use algorithm to recommend content based on the user's behavior, and so traditional media relies on editors, producers, or government broadcasters to select content. The users naturally more directed to these personalized features because we want to personalize everything here. Right? I think that's all for me.
Okay, thank you. We can see that Miss Auna is very biased towards the streaming global platform rather than the traditional media. So next we'll be going to our final panelist, which is Miss Sima. Miss Sima, I would like to ask you, has streaming content ever changed your perception of another culture? You already see that this girl, this Miss Maisara, like Japanese, Korean, Miss Tessa also like it, but she also added Islamic review. And then Miss Sabila has already added analysis and research. Miss Isha has already concluded that language importance of culture. Miss Auna also has bias towards the streaming platform rather than traditional media. So I would like to ask you to answer this question. Give me an answer that will blow our minds out.
Okay, so for me personally, streaming content has definitely changed how I see the other cultures. For example, I am actually with Miss Maisara because I also like the Korean culture. So, for example, while watching the Korean drama, it really helped me to understand how part of Korean life that I didn't know before. Like how family is actually really important to them, and maybe how culture is applied in the work environment then.
So I see there are many K-popers here. Korean fans. Okay.
So it made me realize that culture are much more complex than the stereotypes we used to see. But then when I compare it to the other culture, I noticed that there is a big difference between them. Some culture are shown in a modern and diverse way, while the others are portrayed in a very one-dimensional way. So I feel like that streaming platform can be both broaden our understanding of the world, but they can also give a biased view if the representations isn't fair. So overall, I think that the streaming platforms are amazing for learning different culture, but they should try to show a culture more accurately, not just focusing on what is popular and profitable.
So you have a very respectful for the other culture, so that's why you want to the streaming platform to show accurate culture from all the culture around the world. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. So you all have given me your point of view, which is the round one, which I find very boring. I'm sorry. And the round two, which gets me very excited to hear point of view about many cultures, about the question that I've asked you. So I'm sorry, but we have to end it here. It's a bummer, but we're going to see